How we doing, everybody? I've been traveling, I've been taking family time, it's summer. I've missed a couple of games here and there, so we don't have a gameplay video for you this week. What I do have is a quick little kind of Lord of the Rings rundown. Figured I'd give you guys a little bit of love and show what I think is hits from this set. A lot of them are no-brainers, and then some cEDH like must-haves, some stuff that's going to be like fringe playable, and then a few things here and there that I think are just bombs that you're going to want to maybe grab onto, put them in different decks, that sort of stuff. The first thing I want to talk about is I picked like 5 cards that I think are going to go in like everything, right? There's a couple of real heaters in this. The first one is a legendary creature. We got Lotho, Corrupt Sheriff. This card is wild. It's 2 mana, it's Orzhov, 1 black, 1 white. It's a halfling rogue. Whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, you lose 1 life and create a treasure token. It's a 2/1. Put this thing out early and you're just going to be generating mana off of it. It's really, really wild. It doesn't hit more than once each turn, obviously, but if everybody hits 2 spells, like you're 3 mana up, it feels great. It's going to go in just about anything that's going to want those 2 colors in it. The next no-brainer is going to be Delighted Halfling. This card is great. It's not an elf. That's the only thing that I think is really iffy with it. I've been putting it in a couple decks, and it's like your Priest of Titania is not going to proc off of it. 1 mana, Halfling Citizen, 1/2, which is crazy already. And then it's got add a colorless or add 1 mana of any color, spend it only to cast legendary spells, and those spells can't be countered. It makes your commander uncounterable, which is massive in so many cases. There may be some legendaries that you're going to want to cast with it that are game enders as well, that are things where you're going to push and want this legendary out there. I think this is an extremely powerful card. I love it. I think it's an easy include in just about anything for the colors. Next is Mount Doom. This is a land, a legendary land. You can tap it, pay 1 life to add red or black. So you've got your Rakdos mana base, which I love seeing. Tap 1, a red and a black. It deals, and tap it, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. So you're eking out life totals, which is pretty cool. Then when you get way up there, 7 mana and tap it, so 5 and Rakdos. Sacrifice Mount Doom and a legendary artifact. Choose up to 2 creatures and destroy the rest, activate only as a sorcery. Okay, so you need that legendary artifact. It's a little fringe, but it's a crazy board wipe. Choose up to 2 creatures, then destroy the rest is crazy. Having a board wipe on a land is wild. The real tough part is finding that legendary artifact. There's gonna be decks that it works in really, really well. Honestly, it'll get there. We've got Orcish Bowmasters. This is like your big hot item. This is the one everybody's like pooping their pants about. This card is crazy. It's a 1/1 for 2. Already, we're looking good here. It's got flash, and then it's got when Orcish Bowmasters enter the battlefield, and whenever an opponent draws a card except the first one they draw on each of their draw steps, Orcish Bowmaster deals 1 damage to any target, then amass 1 orc. You're getting a 1/1 and another 1/1 for 2 mana. It's got flash, so you can sneak it in on people. It's removal on the stack, because you can flash it in and use people's brainstorms to blow stuff up. I've seen this hit the battlefield 3 times now, and every time it absolutely gummed the game up. It's absolutely wild. I've seen it in real life and in spell table games. It's massive. I haven't seen somebody like hit with a wheel, but there are people brewing whole decks around this thing in wheels. Expect to see this card. Just run your own Orcish Bowmasters to get rid of it. Like, just make the problem worse, honestly. Last but not least, I've been raving about this card all week. The One Ring is wild. This is a 4 mana legendary artifact, so this is the one you sacrifice to Mount Doom, right? Indestructible. First of all, it's indestructible, it's hard to get rid of. When it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, you gain protection from everything until your next turn. If you watch the last game, you see it get cast, you see it protect Scoop from a bird murder. This thing is crazy. You might as well be taking an extra turn. It's crazy that this thing just prevents combat damage. Let's get on to the meat of this card. At the beginning of your upkeep, lose 1 life for each bird encounter on the One Ring. Very, very scary. You think it's going to stack up, it really will. Tap it, put a bird encounter on the One Ring, then draw a card for each bird encounter on the One Ring. Where I've seen this go wild is stuff like a Seedborn Muse. You are drawing 4 cards and then taking the 4. You're drawing 1 card, then 2 cards, then 3 cards, and then on your turn you take 3 damage and you draw 4 cards. So in your mid-range, in your Bruce Thrass get the Seedborn out deck, it's gonna do wild. In things with untappers, it's gonna do wild. But even in a deck where you are using it once per turn, that thing sticks out for 4 turns. I'm terrible at math. That's a lot of cards. If you have this out for multiple turns in a row, you're losing life, but you're drawing cards. I've heard really people whose judgment I truly trust talk about this thing being better than Adnaz because you can run it in any color. Your life total is the resource, and that's where it really hit me. I saw it on Twitter. Somebody said, you know, notoriously good card Yawgmoth's Bargain, they compared it to, which is like, it really got me thinking. Cards that have been banned in the past have all paid life for card draw. These cards are notoriously obscenely powerful, and they gave that ability right to the One Ring. You are paying life for card draw. This card is cracked. It goes in everything you could put it in, except for maybe like your decks that are really gonna rely super heavily on collector oofs or null rods. Anything that's relying on pure artifact hate, you might not want to run this in. I've got 3 fringe cards to talk about real quick. One is Mirkwood Bats. This is a really interesting one. So this is going to want to go in your stuff that's sacrificing a lot of tokens, creating a lot of tokens. Think of this thing like a Mayhem Devil. 4 mana is a little heavy. Whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses 1 life. Treasure decks. Next one, this one was a huge debate. When it came out, people were like, oh my god, does it replace an offer you can't refuse? Does it replace Swan Song? Whatever. Stern Scolding. Counter target creature spell with power or toughness 2 or less. This thing hits so many staples. People talked about it being just better than other counter spells. I don't know. It hits creatures. There's not a lot of creature counters. I think this has a lot of weight to it. There's a lot of spaces this can go. Next is Reprieve. 1 mana, 1 white, instant, uncommon. Return target spell to its owner's hand, draw a card. Plain and simple. This thing is just try again, which when somebody's down to 0 on mana is going to be everything. In white, to have a counterspell like this, it's everything. I think this is an easy include in, you know, in those Mardu decks, in a white deck, in an Orzhov deck, even a Selesnya deck. I think this card is going to hit very hard. Don't be surprised when you get cards put back in your hand. Boromir. Expect to see Boromir in combat-based, stacks-based EDH decks, cEDH decks. 3 mana, Vigilance, 3/3. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. This is an easy include into your stacks-based cEDH decks. Very strong. Then we've got Sacrifice Boromir, Warden of the Tower. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. The Ring tempts you. I talked about this a ton in my group chat with the Ramp Gang and all them. It's amazing because if somebody's threatening to win, if say player A pushes and player B has a free counterspell in hand, you can sacrifice Boromir so that player B can then blast out that free counterspell. You can use it protectively to protect all your creatures. It's a nasty stacks piece. Expect to see Boromir in some decks as well. This one is very specific hate, but I expect to start seeing it show up. You might see this in Karn boards, so that's for other formats. But Stone of Erech, a legendary artifact again. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. So we've got Graveyard Hate. I hate it. It makes my bones itch. Tap 2, sacrifice it, exile target player's graveyard, draw a card. This thing's really strong. I would expect to see this maybe as an Urza's Saga target. So people are getting this out maybe. It's an artifact with cost 1. So it's an easy target for that. I wouldn't be surprised to see this show up occasionally in decks that are running a lot of stacks pieces. All right, now we've got some stuff that I just think is really cool. I think these cards are really interesting. These are some of my favorites from the set, things that I think are gonna be staples in just EDH at all different levels, stuff that I think is really powerful, stuff to watch out for. This next one, I think I'm known for brewing a little outside of the box, playing fringe things, playing things that aren't 100%. Call of the Ring is a really cool card, and I think the Ring tempts you. Having a Ring Bearer is going to become relevant. I would not be surprised to see Ring Bearers making their way into cEDH for combat. Timid decks have bad attackers. This card makes good attackers. It gives things that skulk. Eventually, it's gonna deal 3 damage whether they hit it or not. It's gonna kill blockers. Once those Ring Emblem levels or whatever the hell they called stack up, Ring Bearers are strong. They do crazy things. So I think that this as a mechanic to hit every upkeep this is a really cool card. It does really cool things. It's going to eke out a ton of value. I would not be surprised to see this show up in cEDH, and if it doesn't, just expect to see this at casual at all levels. The next, this guy's an absolute dickhead. The Witch King of Angmar, 5 mana. I seen it played as a commander. Girl Redacted, Girl Dick Energy was playing it as a commander, and it terrified me. It made me absolutely scared to attack. 3 and 2 black, Wraith Noble, flying. Whenever one or more creatures deal combat damage to you, each opponent sacrifices a creature that dealt combat damage to you this turn. It's like kind of like a no mercy, this thing. It's killing anything. They have to sacrifice it too. It doesn't destroy it. It's combat damage specifically, so it's not quite no mercy. And then it says discard a card, it gains indestructible until end of turn, tap it. So, but that static ability of not being able to hit just terrifies me. I think you're going to see this in a lot of decks. It's very scary. Next, we've got our Cryptolith Rite replacement, Elven Chorus, 3 and a green. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. Crazy. You may cast creature spells from the top of your library. Creatures you control have tap to add 1 mana of any color. This thing is a 4 mana house. This is an enchantment that does so many cool things. It does 3 different things that are all extremely relevant. It's going to then generate you a ton of mana. It's going to generate you card advantage, and everybody loves that little peeky poo. I'm going to take a little look. See what's coming next. And if it's a creature, you can just shit it right out. So I think you're going to expect to see this one in a ton of decks. Next, this one, I just really like the flavor of this card. I think it's very strong. Radagast the Brown, 2 colorless, 2 green, 2/5, Avatar Wizard, Mythic. This thing has a block of text. Whenever Radagast the Brown or another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is that creature's mana value. You may reveal a creature card that doesn't share a creature type with a creature you control from among those cards. Put it in your hand, rest go on the bottom. Any creature you cast gives you possible replacement, gives you just another creature in your hand. Creature type is going to restrict it. I think that the replacement effect of being able to cast creatures and put them in your hand, there's a lot of decks that are going to want to play this. Next, the last card I have on my list here is Ring Sight. This is a Dimir Tutor. I've seen it played once or twice. I think it's very strong. The ring tempts you. Search your library for a card that shares a color with a legendary creature you control, so already goes in commander decks, right? Reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle. Easy peasy. So you're searching for any card, has to share a color with your commander. The ring tempts you. It's got 3 different cool things on it. I really, really like this card. That's my rundown of the Lord of the Rings. Quick and dirty. We got 12, 13 cards I talked about. 13, love it. I'm sure there's other cards I missed. Let me know what cards you think are going to be cEDH staples. Let me know what cards you think are going to be EDH staples. Let me know what decks you're going to run some of these cards in. If you watched this much, thank you guys so much for watching. I cannot thank you enough. It means everything to me. Anything you can do to help the channel is amazing. Thank you guys again so much. As always, hit the like buttons, the subscribes, comment on this video, comment on all the other videos, and come check us out when we're playing live. Tuesdays and Fridays, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We love sharing all this with you guys. Big draws at checkout at quivertime.com gets you 10% off the best MTG accessories out there. Be safe. I'll see you at a Command Fest or an event near you. Thanks again.